How's it going, guys? Welcome to the Diamond Matter channel. Right, today I'm revisiting something I tried in the past. I tried it and failed. Now I've got some proper stuff. I've got some specific flux for aluminium, so now I can solder it. You can see I've been experimenting and joining bits together. So I'll show you my experience. It's actually quite easy to join up, but to do things skillfully with it, I'm still having trouble. But anyway, I'm learning, so I'll show you. If you're interested in working with aluminium, checking out videos of people doing it, I'll show you how I'm getting it to work for me. So this was my very first join, successful join, and worked first time, really easy. But I still had a lot to learn. It worked first time, but I didn't make a load of mistakes. And I always say on this channel, the mistakes are like the hidden treasure of learning new skills and getting knowledge. So this worked first time. It wasn't luck. I kind of knew what I was doing, so I'm an experienced jeweller. But I've still got loads of questions. Like, I don't know whether like there's a little bit there. Can I add more to that join without that join being ruined? I didn't know anything about how it cleans up or files back, or is that going to damage my files when I file it? Can I use my normal acid to clean it up? Can I pull it apart? Can I get it under heat, pull it apart? What kind of heat? I learned the hard way using this torch, oxypropane. It's too hot, it's a bit too fierce. Even on a gentle flame, this is too much temperature. So my normal like plumber's blowtorch, more of a woody flame, much cooler flame. That works actually. That's a better tool for joining up aluminium. So it might be good news to you if you're just doing a little project in your garage or whatever. You just need to do a repair. Just normal kind of blowtorch you can buy in any hardware store is actually the best tool for the job in my experience. So anyway, the first one worked quite well. And I started to try to do things a bit fancy, doing experiments. So yeah, look, this is when I learned not to use my oxypropane torch. Just overheated really quickly, just caved in. So scrap that. I think this is my next one. Started to learn about the joins. Definitely a benefit to get your joins really tight and straight and nice. The solder doesn't fill up gaps very nicely. You risk trying to melt it into a gap, you just very quickly overheat the metal. So get your joins really tight. Definitely a benefit. Look, you can see, just overheated slightly. It goes all concave really quickly, very unforgiving. And this bit, I tried to touch up the join a little bit better by adding more, and yeah, it didn't work, caved in. Then I tried to file it back and it doesn't really work. But anyway, I had confidence to do something a bit more complicated. That was my first one. Not enough flux, but I learned I can't really reheat it and add more, so I thought fine, I'll leave that. This one was a bit better. The next one, just confidence, trying to work more quickly. Again, overheated it. It's a bit of a liability working on this metal. But it could be, like I've still got questions, it could be because I'm using this stuff I bought from a hardware store, and it seems to have a kind of coating on it. Maybe it's an antioxidant coating. The flux, I thought I had to file it back, but you don't need to. You can just flux over it and it sort of burns off and you can do your join. So that saves a bit of time. Yeah, but still bullsed it up. Even after doing all these joins, still made a mistake. So yeah, that's scrapped now as well. But I'm not beating myself up at all about these mistakes. I'm learning, I'm getting there. I'm sort of making this little mistake, and they reduce, and then in the end, you know exactly what to do, how to do it, all the tools, how to hold it. You just learn everything. So yeah, anyway, I'll do some work on a bit of aluminium just so you can see what it's like. If you're a jeweller and you've got jeweler's tools, just use those tools, they're fine. You don't need nothing special to cut through it. You cut through it really easy. If you've just got normal tools like in your toolbox at home, just a junior hacksaw are good. Any kind of hacksaw blade will get through this, no problem. It's quite soft metal, but it's not too soft. You couldn't make something that needs a bit of structural rigidity. Like you're making a little small coffee table or something. If your joins are good, it can be perfectly strong. Just a little something on filing aluminium. You can file it, no problem at all. But it's sort of a bit grippy sometimes. And then also, the end's all right, but when I'm going across, like doing these corners, like filing across there, you gotta be careful because bits clog up. You can see a little bit in the teeth of my file there. One little bit clogs up, and then because the metal's quite soft, that little chunk is in your file, and then you drag it across and you score a big line in your metal. See if I can make it happen. See, it sticks to my file, and they're actually putting deeper lines in than the rest of it. You see that? See how sort of liney that is? Are those separate lines? That's those little chunks scratching across the metal. shouldn't be doing that. It should just be evenly going down. So a bit limited on filing it up or shaping it if you're just hacking off a big shape. But if you're trying to work like I am, like on a piece of jewellery and trying to get a nice flat surface, you can only do so much filing. You have to quickly go to buff sticks. Just because the metal, you can see this line scored in it really clearly now. Yeah, you've got to sand it down really more than file it. So you can file off a lump of solder, but then very quickly choose to use a buff stick if you want to get it smooth. Okay, so yeah, I mentioned before, I'm suspicious of some sort of coating on this, but I've learned, even if there is, it doesn't really matter. This flux is sort of corrosive. It's a bit dangerous. On the back of this, it made me laugh. It says, in Japanese, it says, not eye drops. Yeah, don't get this in your eye. I'm not using my normal brush as well. I got this like spare one I've got laying around, so I don't use I'm not mixing it at all with my jewellery borax. So I'm not pouring this in there in my normal dish. So I quite liberally just spread this all over, get it on the join. I think just the more the better. Because if a join is not fluxed enough and you're adding more and more heat trying to get your aluminium to flood into it, it just melts so quickly. It just caves in on you, which I've learnt the hard way. Anyways, let's join that up. Get a bit of heat. So same as with jewellery, I just kind of gently heat it up first, try and burn that flux on. See it going. You can look around it, and if you feel like you want some more, you can add a little bit more. If you are going to add a bit more, which I've just decided to do, this metal stays hot much longer than precious metals, so give it plenty of time to cool down. Because if you touch that on, the bristles might burn to it and stick to it, and then you pull it away and you just knock the whole thing over. So you've got to give the metal a bit more time to cool down. Right, so working on it as though it's a piece of jewellery, I'm just going to cut a little chunk off my bit of aluminium rod, welding rod, and then see if I can get just put it on there and see if I can get it to melt on there. Put that there, touch it over my join. And let's watch it flood. So I try to heat things up slowly, watch what's going on. Like I say, this metal, it's a bit of a liability. It goes from hot enough to solder to overheated really quickly. But when you're learning to solder, you just pay attention to what the metal's doing. Like if the surface is it's getting too hot, but you should watch the flux kind of melt and then go sticky, change colour, and the metal heats up, goes dark colours, and then you should be looking for it to go. So this flux, it seems like the flux dries out and then it goes black, sort of bluey black. And then shortly afterwards, things start to melt. Like the solder should be lower melting temperature, so that should start to go before the metal. See, it's sort of going now. See if I can draw it in. No, I went the wrong way. Okay, let me see if I can do this. This is like a jeweller's technique. See if I can get it wet and then I'll push it into the join. I haven't tried this before with aluminium, so I'm experimenting. I mean, that's joined, but working on it like a piece of jewellery doesn't seem the way it wants to be joined. Okay, so the way I think they would usually want you to put this together, like it was designed to be used, is to actually just set it up and then touch that welding rod on. Kind of a good join. That should be alright. I'll just put the lid on this because I'm scared of knocking it over. Don't want to waste it, also don't want to poison myself. Right, so get it hot, see it dries out, sticks to it. When it goes dark, it should be sort of nearing the temperature where it melts. It's going dark now. Nearly there. Right, move. Don't move. That was my bad. I got the smaller piece hot enough, but this side wasn't. Put some more heat on this side. Oh my god, come on. Horrible to work with compared to precious metals. So I was just talking low to the camera and realised it wasn't recording. Yeah, put this bit in, look. Can you see the reaction? This is just jeweler's safety pickle, like as a replacement, safer version than acid. But yeah, it just comes off like that. Sort of really almost looks like it's corroding it away. But I've left it in there as an experiment. Last time I left a piece in there overnight, it doesn't damage the aluminium at all. It's just really messy the way that flux comes off. Look at it. So it makes such a mess in your acid pot, yeah, I would recommend having a separate container. If you've got like a nice heated fancy one, you want to keep it clean for your gold and platinum, definitely do your aluminium in something separate. And this is not hot, this is just room temperature. Just a thought, there's so much stuff coming off that when it's in the acid. I put the lid on because I don't know, I'm naive to how dangerous all this stuff is. So there might be noxious fumes coming off it. So put a lid on or put it outside or next to an open window at least, just like safety first and all that. You don't want to be breathing in nastiness. So anyway, this is the first piece I joined. It's actually not as bad as I thought. Actually, it's gone across that, the side that I put it on, joined it really well, but it's just not enough. It's only gone halfway down one side. And it happens when we're making jewellery quite often. You do a solder, but you just want to add a bit more, you want to try and flood it across a little bit more. There's enough solder, but it hasn't quite melted into the joint enough. So you've got to flux it again, maybe clean it in the acid, then you've got to flux it again, and then just reheat it and try and get the solder to flood where you want it to. So I'm going to see if that's possible in aluminium. So maybe I'll just reheat it and see if I can get that to flood more around, because the joint is quite tight. It should move a little bit more. You know, I said I was suspicious of it being plated. Everywhere that flux was, it's like bare aluminium now, and you can really see, I can literally feel an edge on that. This has definitely got plating on it. So that flux burns through it before it can do its job. Maybe it will be a benefit to paper the sides or something first. You might get a join, might just join easier at a lower temperature. So I've not added any more, I'm just gonna reflux it, like a scenario that might happen when I'm making jewellery. Not added any more, just want it to remelt and hopefully move around and flood into it a bit more. I'm doing all this because I want to learn if I can work in aluminium skillfully, because I've got an idea for an artwork I want to do, but I don't want to get like 3/4 of the way through it and then just melt a section and have to start again. So I've got to kind of master all these like foundation basics first. So let's see if I can get it on that side. It only melted on that side a little bit. See if I can pull it across. But as for putting a small chunk on your join, yeah, that worked. Which is good news. Should be melting soon. The solder's going, but it's not really pulling into the join. Let me try this side. You see that? So I'm looking there, I'm trying to get that to pull across that way. In silver, this would have worked by now. Nah. I mean, this solder's like molten, but it doesn't shift. Nah, it looks like that's doesn't work. Doesn't move about. It just sits there wet. So I put that one in the acid. I got this one out. It was still a bit dirty, so I've just ultrasonicked it, and that cleaned it, helped it get clean a little bit quicker. Anyway, so that was put down like that, and I was heating it up and rubbing that on, which is, I think, is how these are sort of designed or expected to be used. It does work, but for me, it's not very good, because I need things either held in position, like I pinch things together with tweezers, or I like them set up like I did on that, like on a flat surface. But when these pieces are small and quite delicate, they don't weigh much, it's aluminium. So rubbing that on, if I touch it and it's not hot enough, I move things around. I think it literally happened, didn't it, when I was doing it? I kept moving it about. So it's not really ideal for me to do it that way. And still didn't get enough on, like nowhere near enough. I needed it to flood around. It didn't work. I'm gonna have to work on that technique. I don't know. I need to find a kind of a fail-proof way to get these joined up nicely, because I don't want to start working on my artwork until I've fixed got the solutions to all the potential problems. Doing an investigation on this one. This is the side I was holding it. I was trying to reflood that, and that was staying molten, but it just wasn't shifting, and it hasn't shifted at all. And I couldn't even see all this surface damage happening. But yeah, look, it's all caved in, and like that plating's bubbled up there. Horrible. So yeah, I was damaging it. Wasn't even aware of it. Horrible. This side, I tried to add some more. It just did flood, but just sort of didn't really go in the join. It just went flat on there. And then to get it to the temperature for that to happen is literally caved in. You can see that sort of concave now. It's all sunk in. So yeah, you can't reflood it and expect it to do anything. You've just got to add too much solder on purpose. And it's like you've got to apply it on all sides. You can't. I'm trying to work on it like I'm working silver or gold, where you just put a bit on and then move it to get it to flood across. Doesn't seem to work. In aluminium, you've got to apply it there if you want it there. If you want it there, you've got to apply it there, and just do it on all your joins all the way around, which is a bit annoying. A little bit unusual compared to my normal videos, but I'm a jeweller, so I work in metal. I'm kind of interested in what other metal workers are doing and different techniques, different types of metal. So I've got an idea, but I'm just trying to find a way to do what's in my head. And I thought aluminium square tube would be the answer, but it's still getting some difficulties. But there's potential there. I think some of my problem is just that's a thin bit of aluminium tube. It's all collapsing when it's getting hot enough for the stuff to melt. But that is just about the same temperature, it just claps in on itself, so it's getting difficulties. So I might try and find that, because I like this gauge. That's 10 mil square. I like that gauge for what I've got in mind for my art project. But if I can just get it solid, that might help me out immensely. Then I could just really get it hot and it won't start caving in. Well, I'll look for some and try that. Be another video in the future. But yeah, the secret ingredient, if you're new to my channel and you're just researching how to work in aluminium, key ingredient is aluminium specific flux. Really, that's the only thing that makes it possible. I couldn't do it at all without that. So at least I'm getting things joined, and then obviously you need some aluminium specific welding rod things. But yeah, cool. Hope you like the video. If you're new to my channel, thank you very much for coming here and finding me. Check out my other videos if you're interested at all in making jewellery and working in other metals. Yeah, click like and subscribe, become a patron if you want to help me out, continue sharing more of what I learned over the last 20 years being a professional jeweller.